Welcome back to Infidelity Tales Lab. We're incredibly grateful for your support. Before we begin today's tale, tell us, which city or country are you joining us from? We love connecting with our global audience. Now, let's dive into today's story. Chapter 1. Foundations of Sand. Devin Hargrove had always prided himself on precision. Whether it was the exact measurement of ingredients in his signature old-fashioned or the meticulous planning that had built his real estate empire, he never left anything to chance. At 52, his salt and pepper hair and steel blue eyes had only sharpened his commanding presence, making him a man few dared to cross. The Montgomery name had opened doors for him 20 years ago, but it was his relentless drive that transformed those opportunities into a fortune that dwarfed his father-in-law's. Harold Montgomery had seen that potential in the young contractor from a modest background, perhaps before Devin himself had fully recognized it. "You remind me of myself at your age," Harold had told him the night before his wedding to Vanessa. "Hungry, determined. But remember, Devin, the world doesn't reward mercy." Those words had become a cornerstone of Devin's philosophy, though Vanessa never understood her father's harder edges. She'd been raised in luxury, shielded from the ruthlessness that had built her family's wealth. Their sprawling estate in Westchester County had been their home for 18 of their 20 years together. Tonight, as Devin entered through the grand foyer, he noticed Vanessa's Louboutins missing from their usual spot. Her scent, Clive Christian No. 1, a fragrance he gifted her every anniversary, lingered faintly in the air. "Nessa," he called, loosening his tie as he moved toward the kitchen. Silence greeted him. Unusual for a Thursday, she typically worked from home on Thursdays. He checked his watch, 6:35 p.m. The catering staff had left their dinner prepared as usual, covered dishes waiting on the warming tray. Devin poured himself 2 fingers of bourbon and checked his phone. No messages from Vanessa, but there was a text from Rowan, his head of security. Surveillance picked up unusual activity at the penthouse. "Might want to review." The penthouse downtown was rarely used, a wedding gift from Harold that they'd maintained but seldom visited. Devin's instincts, honed through years of high-stakes negotiations, hummed with warning. He opened his secure laptop and accessed the security system. The timestamp showed Vanessa entering the penthouse at 2:17 p.m. with a man. Preston Thorne, her personal assistant of 3 years. Devin watched dispassionately as they moved through the penthouse, clearly intimate in their body language. He fast-forwarded through several hours of footage, stopping when they emerged from the master bedroom at 5:43 p.m. Devin took a measured sip of bourbon. This wasn't the first time Vanessa had strayed. There had been the tennis instructor 7 years ago and the art dealer in Barcelona 3 years before that. Each time, Devin had known and chosen strategic silence. Each time, he documented, archived, and waited. Harold Montgomery had taught him patience alongside ambition. "Information is only valuable when properly leveraged," the old man would say. His phone vibrated. "Vanessa. Working late with Preston. Don't wait up." Devin set down his glass and closed the laptop. The corners of his mouth curved into a slight smile. He would wait, but not in the way she expected. Vanessa had always been beautiful. At 47, her honey blonde hair and practiced grace still turned heads. But Devin had long ago learned to recognize the hollow behind her emerald eyes, the practiced warmth in her smile. "We need to discuss the charity gala," she said over breakfast the following morning, not meeting his eyes. The Richardsons confirmed their attending. Devin nodded, scanning the financial section of the newspaper. "I invited the Bennetts. Thomas is interested in the Portland development." "The Bennetts?" She frowned. Laura Bennett always acts so superior. "Laura Bennett's husband controls the zoning commission," Devin replied evenly. "Sometimes we endure tedious company for necessary connections." Vanessa's laugh held an edge. 20 years of marriage, and that's still your philosophy? Devin lowered his newspaper, studying his wife's face. "Isn't it yours?" For a moment, something genuine flickered across her features. Perhaps fear, perhaps regret. Then her mask of polished indifference returned. "Preston has reorganized my schedule today. I'm meeting with the designer about the Southampton house renovations. Of course, Devin replied smoothly. I'm sure Preston has everything well in hand. The Southampton house had been Vanessa's latest project, a summer home she'd barely visited last season, suddenly requiring extensive renovations. Devin had approved the budget without question, knowing each expense created another strand in his web. As Vanessa left, her perfume lingering behind her, Devin called Gregory Sinclair, the family attorney who had served the Montgomerys for decades. Greg, Devin said when the older man answered, I believe it's time to review Harold's will provisions again. There was a pause on the line. All of them. Particularly the marital clauses, Devin confirmed. I'll have the documents prepared, Gregory replied carefully. Would tomorrow morning work? Perfect. Devin ended the call and opened his private safe, removing a leather-bound journal. Harold Montgomery's personal diary, entrusted to him shortly before the old man's death 5 years ago. My Vanessa has her mother's beauty and her mother's flaws, Harold had written. I've arranged the best protection I can for her. And for the fortune she's never understood the cost of building. Devin ran his fingers over the embossed leather, remembering Harold's words to him in the hospital. She'll test you. When she does, remember your promise. The promise had been simple. Protect the Montgomery legacy, even for Vanessa herself. His personal phone rang. Lena Winters, his most trusted associate. The surveillance is in place, she reported. And I've located the paper trail for the Cayman transfers. Good, Devin replied. Maintain distance, but keep me updated. Has she made any significant withdrawals? Not yet, but Preston Thorne has been researching property in Belize. Devin smiled slightly. How predictable. Thank you, Lena. As he hung up, Devin felt no anger, only a cold clarity. The game was in motion, as it had been since the day Harold Montgomery had sized him up as a potential son-in-law and decided he was worthy of both his daughter and the contingency plans that came with her. Chapter 2. The Dissolution. Over the next 3 months, Devin observed the pattern with clinical detachment. Vanessa's excuses grew more frequent, her absences more prolonged. Preston accompanied her everywhere, to charity functions, design consultations, art galleries. The young man's ambition was transparent, his calculated charm aimed at the Montgomery fortune that Vanessa controlled through her trust. What Preston didn't know, what Vanessa herself seemed to have forgotten, was that Harold Montgomery had been meticulous about protecting his wealth from outsiders. Devin maintained his usual routine, giving Vanessa the space to believe her deception was working. He attended board meetings, expanded his commercial holdings in 3 states, and made a point of being cordial to Preston whenever their paths crossed. You seem distracted lately, Devin mentioned casually over a rare dinner at home with Vanessa. Is everything all right? Vanessa's fingers tightened slightly around her wine glass. Just busy with the foundation. We're expanding the scholarship program. Admirable, Devin replied, cutting his steak with precision. Preston seems to be taking on more responsibility. You must be pleased with his performance. A flush crept up her neck. He's dedicated. Dedication is valuable, Devin agreed. Harold always appreciated loyalty above all else. At the mention of her father, Vanessa's expression hardened slightly. Dad had unusual ideas about loyalty. He understood its worth, Devin countered mildly. That night, lying beside his wife in their king-sized bed, Devin felt her restlessness. She waited until she thought he was asleep before reaching for her phone, the screen illuminating her face as she typed a message. The following Tuesday, Devin returned from a business trip to Chicago to find Vanessa sitting in the living room, an uncharacteristic tension evident in her posture. We need to talk, she said, her voice carefully modulated. Devin set down his briefcase. Of course. What's on your mind? I've been doing a lot of thinking, Vanessa began, her rehearsed speech transparent to him. About us. About what I need at this point in my life. Devin sat across from her, his expression attentive but neutral. After 20 years, her voice faltered slightly. I think I need space to figure out who I am outside of this marriage. I see, Devin replied evenly. And have you figured out what this space looks like? Vanessa straightened, gaining confidence as she delivered her prepared lines. I want a divorce, Devin. I've already spoken with my attorney. I'll have papers drawn up. Your attorney, Devin repeated. Not Gregory. Gregory is your friend, she said dismissively. I've retained someone independent. Devin allowed himself a small nod. Of course. You should have representation you trust. His calm response seemed to unsettle her. You are not surprised? Vanessa, he said gently. Very little about you surprises me anymore. Something flashed in her eyes. Anger, perhaps, or fear that he knew more than he was letting on. I want this to be amicable, she continued. I'm prepared to be generous in the settlement. Generous, Devin echoed, a hint of amusement in his tone. How considerate. The Montgomery trust is mine, she said, a defensive edge creeping into her voice. But I recognize your contributions to our lifestyle. Devin studied her for a long moment. And what does Preston think of all this? The color drained from her face. This isn't about anyone else, isn't it? Devin stood smoothly. Send the papers when they're ready. I won't contest the divorce. Her surprise was evident. You won't. No, he confirmed. If you want out of this marriage, I won't stand in your way. Relief washed over her features, quickly replaced by suspicion. Just like that. Just like that, Devin affirmed. Though I recommend reviewing your father's will before proceeding. There may be provisions you've forgotten. What are you talking about? Vanessa demanded. Devin picked up his briefcase. Ask Gregory. He is still the executor, after all. He left her sitting there, confusion evident on her face. In the privacy of his car, Devin made a call to Lena. She's made her move, he said simply. The Thorne boy's been meeting with a real estate agent specializing in Caribbean properties, Lena reported. And there's been activity on the hidden Cayman account. Begin phase 2, Devin instructed, and tell Rowan to increase surveillance on the penthouse. Already done, Lena confirmed. Are you going to warn her about the will clause? I've given her a hint, Devin replied. Whether she follows it depends on how greedy she's grown. The divorce papers arrived 3 days later, delivered by courier to his office. The terms were exactly as he expected. Vanessa claiming the majority of their shared assets, offering him a settlement that, while substantial, was a fraction of what he was entitled to under normal circumstances. Devin signed every page without hesitation, adding his initials where indicated. He made no counteroffer, requested no changes. His signature, bold and unwavering, sealed the end of 20 years with brutal efficiency. That evening, he received a text from Gregory. She never asked about the will. Devin smiled to himself. Harold had predicted this too. Vanessa makes decisions based on desire, never prudence, he'd once told Devin. It will be her downfall. The divorce was finalized with unusual speed, expedited by Vanessa's connections and Devin's lack of resistance. He moved out of the Westchester estate into his downtown office building's executive suite, making no claim on any of their shared homes. If Vanessa found his compliance suspicious, her desire for quick freedom overrode her caution. Within weeks, society pages reported her attendance at various events with Preston Thorne no longer introduced as her assistant, but as her companion. Devin watched from a distance, playing the role of the dignified ex-husband who had gracefully accepted his fate. He took meetings, expanded his business interests, and appeared occasionally at social functions where his path deliberately never crossed with Vanessa's. Behind this facade, he meticulously executed his plan, putting into motion the mechanisms Harold Montgomery had established years before, mechanisms designed to protect the family fortune from exactly this scenario. She thinks she's won, Lena observed during one of their strategy sessions. That's the first step, Devin replied, reviewing the documents before him. Harold always said victory is sweetest when your opponent believes they've already achieved it. Chapter 3, The Engagement. 2 months after the divorce was finalized, Devin received an elaborately embossed invitation. Vanessa Montgomery, having reclaimed her maiden name, and Preston Thorne cordially requested his presence at their engagement celebration. The location, the Coral Terrace at the Palms, an exclusive resort in the Bahamas, the same place where Devin and Vanessa had spent their 10th anniversary. Bold, Gregory Sinclair commented when Devin showed him the invitation over lunch. Or perhaps just thoughtless. It's deliberate, Devin replied, sipping his water. Vanessa's always had a flair for pointed symbolism. Gregory's weathered face creased with concern. Have you informed her about the wool claws yet? That would spoil the timing, Devon said with a slight smile. Harold was very specific about how this should unfold. The old man had a vindictive streak, Gregory acknowledged. But are you sure this is how you want to handle it? Once triggered, the clause is absolute. She'll lose everything. Harold didn't design it as punishment, Devon corrected. He designed it as protection, for the legacy he built and for Vanessa herself. Ironically enough, Gregory studied his client carefully. And what about Preston Thorne? My investigator's report suggests he's quite ambitious. Preston is playing a game without understanding the rules, Devon replied. That's his mistake, not mine. Later that afternoon, Devon met with Rowan Sullivan, his head of security, in a private room at his club. We've confirmed the transfer of funds, Rowan reported, sliding a folder across the table. $5 million moved from her personal account to a shell company in Thorne's name. Devon reviewed the documents. And the property in Belize? Purchased last week. 3 acres, beachfront, with a 6-bedroom villa. Registered to Kingfisher Holdings, which traces back to Preston, Devon concluded. Through 3 layers of shell companies, Rowan confirmed. He's been careful, but not careful enough. And Vanessa's knowledge of these arrangements? Rowan hesitated. Based on the surveillance, she believes they're investing together in their future home. Thorne has shown her photos, discussed renovation plans. She doesn't appear to know about the sole ownership structure. Devon nodded thoughtfully. He's planning his exit strategy. Ambitious and cautious. Should we alert her? Rowan asked. No, Devon replied firmly. This is proceeding exactly as expected. The engagement party was scheduled for the following month. Devon arranged his calendar to be in the Bahamas coincidentally for a development meeting. He RSVP'd to the invitation with a simple note. Congratulations on your happiness. I look forward to celebrating with you both. Lena raised an eyebrow when he showed her the response. You're really attending? It's critical to the timeline, Devon explained. Harold's instructions were very specific. Speaking of timelines, Lena said, Preston has accelerated his plans. He's interviewing for positions with developers in Central America. Without Vanessa's knowledge? Lena nodded. According to our source, he's planning to surprise her with the move after they're married, supposedly as a romantic gesture. How thoughtful, Devon remarked dryly. Has the legal team finished reviewing the trust documentation? Everything is in order, Lena confirmed. The moment she remarries, the dissolution clause activates. The entire Montgomery fortune reverts to the foundation, with you as the controlling executor. And Preston, if he's married her at that point, he gets nothing. The prenuptial agreement Harold had her sign before your marriage prevents any Montgomery assets from transferring to subsequent spouses. Devon leaned back in his chair. Harold was thorough. Ruthlessly so, Lena agreed. But there's something else you should know. Vanessa has been meeting with finance experts, looking for ways to access the principal of the trust. She can't, Devon said with certainty. Harold locked it down completely. She's desperate, Lena explained. According to our sources, she's promised Preston significant capital for his development ambitions. Capital she can't actually access. Devon considered this new information. She's overextended herself. Interesting. As the engagement party approached, Devon maintained his disciplined routine. He expanded his real estate holdings in the Caribbean, coincidentally near Preston's secret property purchases. He met with Gregory Sinclair to finalize the legal details that would soon be set in motion. The night before his flight to the Bahamas, Devon received an unexpected visitor at his penthouse. Catherine Montgomery, Vanessa's younger sister, who had distanced herself from the family drama years ago. You're really going to let her do this? Catherine asked without preamble, accepting the glass of wine he offered. Your sister makes her own choices, Devon replied. Catherine studied him with eyes remarkably similar to Harold's, shrewd and penetrating. Dad told me, about the clause. Devon's expression revealed nothing. Did he? He said you were the only one he trusted to handle Vanessa when the time came. She took a sip of wine. Preston Thorne is a con man. He's done this before. I'm aware, Devon acknowledged. And you're still letting her walk into this trap? I'm letting her experience the consequences of her choices, he corrected. As your father intended. Catherine shook her head. You're as ruthless as Dad was. He considered that a compliment, Devon noted with a slight smile. It wasn't meant as one, she said, though there was no real bite in her words. What happens after? When she's lost everything and Preston has abandoned her. The foundation will provide her a stipend, Devon explained. Generous, but controlled. She'll be comfortable, but never again in a position to be exploited. Assuming she accepts it, Catherine pointed out. Pride has a short lifespan when faced with necessity, Devon replied. Harold understood that better than most. As Catherine left, she paused at the door. She did love you once, you know, before she forgot who she was. Devon nodded once, acknowledging her words without sentimentality. Safe travels home, Catherine. That night, as he packed for the Bahamas, Devon reviewed Harold Montgomery's journal one last time. The passage he sought was near the end, written in the old man's increasingly shaky hand. I've seen the look in Preston Thorne's eyes when he thinks no one is watching. He believes Vanessa is his ticket to wealth, unaware that I've ensured she's merely the bait in a trap. Devon understands the game we're playing. When the time comes, he'll remember his promise. The promise. 20 years ago, standing beside Harold's hospital bed after a minor heart attack, Devon had given his word. If Vanessa ever betrayed their marriage, he would execute Harold's contingency plan without mercy or hesitation. Not for revenge, Harold had insisted. For protection. The Montgomery legacy wasn't built to be squandered by opportunists. As Devon closed the journal, he felt no triumph, no vindication, only the calm certainty of a man fulfilling a long-standing obligation. Chapter 4. Paradise Lost. The Palms Resort gleamed like a pearl against the turquoise Bahamian waters. Devon's suite overlooked the exclusive beach where, even now, staff were arranging white chairs and tropical flower arrangements for tomorrow's engagement celebration. He unpacked, laying out his tailored linen suit for the event. The envelope, containing certified copies of Harold Montgomery's will with the crucial clause highlighted, sat in his briefcase, waiting. A knock at his door revealed Lena, elegant in resort casual wear that disguised her razor-sharp focus. Preston's made contact with a developer named Alejandro Vega, she reported, accepting the sparkling water Devon offered. They met yesterday at the marina. Vega owns significant property adjacent to Preston's secret Belize purchase. A potential partner for whatever he's planning, Devon surmised. More than that, Lena added. According to our source, Preston's already committed $15 million to a joint venture. Money he doesn't have unless Vanessa provides it, Devon finished. Which she can't do once the clause activates. Exactly. Lena's expression hardened. He's setting her up for catastrophic failure. Devon moved to the balcony, watching distant figures on the beach. Has Vanessa arrived yet? This morning, with her usual entourage. She's booked the presidential villa. And our other arrangements? In place, Lena confirmed. Gregory landed an hour ago with the legal team. They're staying at the resort next door, ready to move when you give the signal. Devon nodded, satisfied. And Preston's background confirmation? Comprehensive, Lena said, opening her tablet to display a series of documents. This isn't his first time targeting wealthy women. 3 previous relationships, all following the same pattern. Wealthy, somewhat isolated women, whirlwind romances, followed by significant investment opportunities. He's careful, though. He's never been charged. Because they're too embarrassed to admit they were conned, Devon noted. Exactly. The most recent was Diane Hewitt in Boston. Lost nearly $7 million before her family intervened. Devon studied the information dispassionately. Harold suspected as much. He had Preston investigated the moment Vanessa hired him. You knew? Lena asked, surprised. I knew Preston had a history. Harold left detailed files. Devon's expression remained impassive. What I didn't know was whether Vanessa would fall for it. And when she did, I followed Harold's playbook, Devon replied simply. Give her enough rope to entangle herself fully before executing the contingency plan. That evening, from the discreet corner table of the resort's signature restaurant, Devon observed Vanessa and Preston dining with their inner circle. She looked radiant, animated as she described something to her captivated audience. Preston's hand rested possessively on hers, his charm on full display. Devin ate his meal unhurriedly, making no effort to hide his presence. When Vanessa finally noticed him, her laughter faltered momentarily before she regained her composure, whispering something to Preston. Minutes later, Preston approached Devin's table with practiced affability. "Devin," he greeted, extending his hand. "We're honored you came. Vanessa wasn't sure you'd accept the invitation." Devin stood, shaking the younger man's hand firmly. "I wouldn't miss it. Congratulations on your engagement." "Thank you," Preston replied, his confidence evident. "We're very happy. I hope there are no hard feelings." "None whatsoever," Devin assured him smoothly. "Vanessa deserves happiness." Preston's relief was visible. "We were hoping you might join us for a drink. For old time's sake. Perhaps another time," Devin demurred. "I have an early meeting tomorrow before your celebration." "Of course, business first," Preston nodded knowingly. "That's one thing Vanessa said you taught her. The importance of timing in business matters." "Indeed," Devin agreed, a hint of a smile playing at his lips. "Timing is everything." After Preston returned to their table, Devin noticed Vanessa watching him with undisguised wariness. He raised his glass slightly in her direction before finishing his meal and departing. In the privacy of his suite, Devin reviewed the final preparations with Rowan via secure line. "The Belize property documentation is ready," Rowan confirmed. Along with the records of Preston's meetings with Vega and the falsified investment prospectus he's been showing Vanessa. "Good," Devin replied. "And the offshore transfers? Tracked and documented. He's already moved the $5 million she gave him, not to the development account, but to his personal holdings in Singapore." Devin nodded to himself. Everything is proceeding as expected. Harold would be impressed with his foresight. "There's one more thing," Rowan added. "Preston made a call after meeting you tonight. He's accelerated the timeline. They're planning to marry within the month, not in 6 months as they've told everyone." "A secret ceremony?" "Yes. He's arranged everything in Belize. Apparently, he told Vanessa it would be romantic to elope, just the two of them." Devin considered this new information. He's getting nervous. Perhaps my presence unsettled him more than he let on. "Should we adjust our timeline?" "No," Devin decided. "Tomorrow proceeds as planned. Better to cauterize the wound completely than allow it to fester." The following morning dawned clear and perfect, as if nature itself had been bribed to provide an idyllic backdrop for the engagement celebration. Devin took breakfast on his balcony, reviewing Harold's journal one last time before placing it in his briefcase alongside the envelope. At precisely 10:30 a.m., he met Gregory in the lobby. "Everything is prepared," the attorney confirmed quietly. "Though I must ask once more if you're certain about this approach. There are less public ways to handle the situation." "Harold was explicit," Devin replied. "The lesson must be unambiguous, not just for Vanessa, but for Preston and anyone else who might target the Montgomery fortune." Gregory sighed. The old man always did have a flair for the dramatic. He understood the value of a decisive statement, Devin corrected. By noon, the beach was transformed into an elegant celebration space. White chairs faced a floral arch where, ironically, Devin and Vanessa had renewed their vows on their 10th anniversary. Now, it would frame Vanessa and Preston as they celebrated their engagement. Guests mingled, cocktails in hand. The social elite of several continents gathered to witness what they believed was a simple love story. A woman finding happiness after divorcing her cold, business-focused husband. Devin arrived precisely on time, dressed impeccably in lightweight linen, projecting the image of dignified acceptance. He accepted condolences and well wishes with grace, playing his role flawlessly. Vanessa spotted him from across the gathering, her emerald eyes narrowing slightly before she composed herself and approached Preston at her side. "Devin," she greeted, her voice carefully modulated. "Thank you for coming." "Of course," he replied smoothly. "You look beautiful, Vanessa." She studied his face, searching for signs of resentment or pain. Finding none, her uncertainty increased visibly. "I'm glad we can be civil about this." "More than civil," Devin assured her. I wish you both the greatest happiness. Preston, eager to assert his position, slipped his arm around Vanessa's waist. That means a lot, coming from you. We're hoping to maintain good relationships with everyone from Vanessa's past. How progressive, Devin remarked, his tone pleasant, but with an undertone that made Preston shift uncomfortably. The celebration proceeded according to schedule. Champagne flowed, speeches were made, and at the perfect moment, just as Preston led Vanessa to the floral arch to make their formal announcement, Devin positioned himself at the edge of the gathered crowd. Preston's voice carried across the hushed audience. Vanessa and I are overjoyed to announce that we'll be married in a private ceremony next month in Belize, where we're developing a spectacular property together. Applause erupted, glasses were raised, and photographers captured the moment. Vanessa beamed, her happiness seemingly complete as she gazed adoringly at her fiancé. And now, Preston continued, we'd like to invite everyone to join us for our first dance as an engaged couple. As music began and guests cleared space for the dance floor, Devin moved forward with precise timing. He approached the couple just as they took their position at the center of attention. Congratulations, Devin said, his voice carrying despite its measured tone. He extended the envelope toward Vanessa. I thought you might want this before finalizing your plans. Vanessa frowned, reluctantly accepting the envelope. What is this? Your father's will, Devin replied calmly. Specifically, the dissolution clause that you never bothered to review. The color drained from her face. What dissolution clause? The one that stipulates that if you divorced me and remarried within 5 years, you forfeit control of the Montgomery Trust entirely. Devin's expression remained impassive. Effective immediately upon your engagement announcement. Preston's smile faltered. What is he talking about, darling? Vanessa tore open the envelope with trembling fingers, scanning the highlighted legal text. Her expression transformed from confusion to horror. This can't be legal, she whispered. I assure you, it is, Devin replied. Gregory has already filed the necessary documentation. The Montgomery fortune now reverts to the family foundation, under my sole control as executor. Preston's handsome face contorted as understanding dawned. The development funds. No longer available, Devin confirmed. I believe that creates a problem with your commitments to Alejandro Vega, doesn't it? 15 million you don't have. Preston's scream of rage cut through the music and conversation, silencing the celebration as effectively as a gunshot. You planned this, he accused Vanessa, his charming facade crumbling completely. You knew. I didn't. Vanessa protested, backing away from his fury. Preston, I had no idea. Liar, he snarled, advancing on her. 3 years. 3 years I've waited for this payoff. Security personnel moved swiftly to restrain Preston as his outburst escalated. Guests watched in stunned silence as the romantic celebration disintegrated into chaos. Devin observed it all with detached composure, stepping back as Preston was escorted away, still shouting accusations about Vanessa's deception. Vanessa stood alone in the center of the dance floor, the legal documents clutched in her shaking hands, her carefully constructed world collapsing around her. You knew, she said when she finally looked up at Devin. You knew all along. Your father knew, Devin corrected. I merely honored his wishes. You could have warned me, she whispered. I did, he reminded her. I suggested you review the will before proceeding with the divorce. You chose not to. Tears streaked her perfect makeup. So that's it. I'll lose everything. Not everything, Devin replied. The foundation will provide you with a comfortable stipend. Your father ensured you wouldn't suffer materially. But I'll never control the Montgomery fortune again, she realized. No, Devin confirmed. That privilege has been permanently revoked. As murmurs spread through the gathered guests and staff hurried to manage the situation, Devin turned to leave. Vanessa's voice stopped him. Why now, she demanded. Why not tell me before I announce the engagement? Devin looked back at her, his expression revealing nothing of his thoughts. Your father believed in consequences, Vanessa. He wanted you to understand exactly what you were losing and why. He walked away, leaving her standing alone amidst the wreckage of her celebration. Behind him, He heard her collapse into sobs, the sound quickly muffled as her friends rushed to comfort her. Lena met him at the edge of the beach. Phase 1 complete, she noted quietly. Preston is being detained for threatening behavior. His true financial situation will be exposed within hours. And Vanessa? In shock, Lena reported, but already reaching out to her attorney to challenge the will clause. A futile effort, Devin said with certainty. Harold had the best legal minds and sure it was ironclad. As they walked back toward the resort, Lena asked, "Does it feel like victory?" Devin considered the question carefully. "It feels like completion. Harold asked me to protect his legacy from those who would squander it. I fulfilled that obligation." What he didn't add was that Harold's definition of legacy had never been solely about money. The Montgomery name stands for something the old man had written in his journal. When Vanessa betrays you, and she will, remember that the lesson isn't just for her. It's for anyone who believes wealth comes without responsibility. Chapter 5, The Fallout. The aftermath of the engagement party unfolded with the precision of a well-orchestrated symphony. By sunset, Preston Thorne had been released from security detention and was frantically attempting to contact his business associates. His calls went unanswered. Alejandro Vega, warned about Preston's empty promises, had already withdrawn from their arrangement. Devin monitored these developments from his suite, receiving regular updates from Lena and Rowan. When his secure phone rang, he wasn't surprised to see Gregory Sinclair's name on the display. "Vanessa's attorney has reached out," Gregory reported. "They're requesting an emergency meeting." "Predictable," Devin replied. "Schedule it for tomorrow morning. Here at the resort." "They're pushing for immediate restoration of her access to the trust," Gregory continued, claiming duress and failure to properly notify. "Claims that will fail," Devin stated with certainty. Harold's instructions were explicit. After ending the call, Devin poured himself a modest scotch and stepped onto the balcony. The sun was setting over the ocean, painting the sky in dramatic oranges and purples. Below, workers were dismantling the engagement celebration decorations, removing all evidence of the afternoon's catastrophe. His tablet chimed with an incoming message from Rowan. Preston attempting to access Vanessa's personal accounts. All transfers blocked per protocol. Another piece falling into place. Devin had anticipated this move, the desperate grab for whatever assets remained accessible. Harold had predicted it too, ensuring that protective measures were established years ago. A soft knock at his door revealed Catherine Montgomery, her expression a mixture of concern and resignation. "That was quite a show," she said, accepting his invitation to enter. "Not my design," Devin reminded her. Catherine moved to the bar, helping herself to a gin and tonic. Dad always did have a flair for drama. She took a long sip. "How is she?" "Struggling to understand the magnitude of what's happened," Devin replied honestly. "And Preston?" Revealing his true character, Devin said. "He's already attempting to drain what remains of her accessible accounts." Catherine shook her head. She never could judge character. Mom was the same way. They stood in companionable silence for a moment, both looking out at the darkening ocean. "What happens now?" Catherine finally asked. "The Foundation takes control of the Montgomery holdings," Devin explained. "Vanessa receives her stipend, generous but controlled. Preston is eliminated as a threat. And you? What do you get out of all this?" Devin considered the question. "The satisfaction of fulfilling my promise to Harold." Catherine studied him carefully. "Is that really enough?" "It has to be," he replied simply. "It's what I agreed to 20 years ago." After Catherine left, Devin reviewed the final stage of Harold's contingency plan. The old man had been meticulous, considering every possible outcome and reaction. The notebook contained detailed instructions for the aftermath, including how to manage Vanessa's inevitable attempts to regain control. "She'll try everything," Harold had written. Emotional appeals, legal challenges, even attempts at reconciliation. "Remain steadfast. This isn't punishment, it's protection. From herself most of all." The following morning, Devin met with Vanessa and her hastily assembled legal team in a private conference room at the resort. Gregory Sinclair sat beside him, along with two specialized trust attorneys. Vanessa had composed herself overnight, her red-rimmed eyes the only evidence of her emotional state. She wore a cream-colored suit that conveyed both vulnerability and determination, a calculated choice that Devon recognized from their years together. "This clause is unconscionable," her attorney began, a sharp-featured woman named Diana Lawson. "Mr. Montgomery could not have intended to leave his daughter destitute." "He didn't," Gregory replied calmly. "The stipend arrangement ensures Mrs. Hargrove will maintain a comfortable lifestyle." "Mrs. Montgomery," Diana corrected sharply. "And a stipend is hardly appropriate for the primary heir to the Montgomery fortune." "Former heir," Gregory amended. "The trust documentation is quite clear. Upon divorce and subsequent engagement within the 5-year period, control transfers permanently to the foundation." Vanessa leaned forward, addressing Devon directly. "You knew about this all along. You could have warned me. I suggested you review the will before proceeding with the divorce," Devon reminded her, his tone neutral. "You chose not to heed that advice." "Because I never imagined my father would be so cruel," she exclaimed. "Your father was protecting his legacy," Devon corrected, "as he asked me to do 20 years ago." The meeting continued for 2 hours, with Vanessa's legal team presenting increasingly desperate arguments. Each was dismantled by Gregory and his associates, who had spent years ensuring the dissolution clause was unassailable. Finally, Diana Lawson played her last card. "Mrs. Montgomery is prepared to consider reconciliation," she announced. "Given the circumstances, she recognizes that perhaps the divorce was premature." A heavy silence fell over the room. Devon studied Vanessa's face, noting the calculation behind her composed expression. "The clause is triggered by the engagement announcement," Gregory pointed out. "Reconciliation would have no legal effect on the trust status." "Nevertheless," Diana persisted, "if Mr. Hargrove and Mrs. Montgomery were to reconcile, arrangements could potentially be made to facilitate joint management of the foundation." Devon allowed himself a small smile. "An interesting proposal." However, Harold was quite specific about this scenario as well. He nodded to Gregory, who produced another document from his briefcase. "This addendum to the trust stipulates that any reconciliation following divorce must be approved by the Foundation Board, which now consists of Mr. Hargrove, Catherine Montgomery, and 3 independent trustees selected by Mr. Montgomery before his death." Vanessa's composure cracked. "You've thought of everything, haven't you?" "Not me," Devon corrected. "Your father." As the meeting concluded without resolution, Vanessa remained seated while her legal team gathered their documents. When they had departed, leaving only Devon and Gregory, she finally spoke without pretense. "I didn't know about Preston's plans," she said quietly. "The development scheme, the secret property, I had no idea." "I believe you," Devon replied. "That's why Harold created these provisions. He knew your judgment could be compromised. So I'm to be treated like a child for the rest of my life?" The bitterness in her voice was palpable. "You're to be protected from those who would exploit you," Devon corrected. "The stipend is $3 million annually. Hardly punitive, but controlled," she noted sharply. "Structured," he countered, "to prevent exploitation." Vanessa studied him, searching for some crack in his resolve. "Did you ever love me, Devon? Or was this all just business from the beginning?" Devon considered her question carefully. "I honored our marriage vows for 20 years. I built a life with you. I would have continued to do so indefinitely." "That's not an answer. It's the only one that matters now," he replied, rising from his seat. "Your father entrusted me with protecting his legacy. I fulfilled that obligation." As he moved to leave, Vanessa's voice stopped him once more. "What about Preston? What happens to him?" "That depends on his next moves," Devon said. "If he disappears quietly, nothing. If he causes further problems." He left the implication hanging. "You destroy him," Vanessa realized. "I'd allow his actions to have their natural consequences," Devon corrected. "As I've done with yours." He left her sitting alone in the conference room. Her empire crumbled around her. In the corridor, Gregory fell in a step beside him. "That went as expected," the attorney observed. "Harold predicted every move," Devon agreed, "including the reconciliation offer. Are you prepared for what comes next?" Gregory asked. She won't accept this outcome easily. I'm aware, Devin replied. Continue monitoring her communications and accounts. If she attempts to circumvent the structure, implement the secondary restrictions. As they parted ways, Devin received a message from Rowan. Preston attempting to leave the island. Customs notified about outstanding financial issues with local authorities. Another piece in place. Devin had ensured that Preston's financial manipulations would trigger a fraud investigation, effectively trapping him on the island until matters were resolved, a process that could take months. That evening, Devin dined alone in his suite, reviewing the day's developments. Everything had proceeded according to Harold's plan, with Vanessa's reactions aligning perfectly with her father's predictions. A knock at his door revealed an unexpected visitor. Preston Thorne himself, his polished appearance now disheveled, his confident demeanor replaced by desperate urgency. 5 minutes, he pleaded. Just give me 5 minutes. Devin allowed him to enter, maintaining a careful distance. You've ruined me, Preston accused without preamble. The authorities are holding my passport. Vega is threatening legal action over commitments I can't fulfill. Consequences, Devin observed mildly. For actions you chose to take. Preston ran a hand through his hair. Look, I know how this must seem, but Vanessa and it wasn't all an act. There were real feelings there. We're there, Devin asked, his tone making it clear he didn't believe a word. Preston abandoned the pretense. What do you want? There must be something I can offer. Nothing you possess holds any value to me, Devin replied simply. Information, then, Preston pressed. About Vanessa. Things you don't know. Devin's expression remained impassive. I doubt that very much. She was planning to leave you even before I came along, Preston insisted. She told me about the others. The tennis instructor, the art dealer in Barcelona. She said you were too cold, too focused on business to notice. I noticed, Devin corrected calmly. I simply chose not to react. Preston blinked, momentarily thrown off balance. You knew? All along. Harold ensured I was fully informed about Vanessa's indiscretions. Each was documented and archived. Then why wait until now? Preston demanded. Why not divorce her years ago? Timing, Devin replied simply. Harold's instructions were specific. Wait until she found someone truly dangerous to the Montgomery legacy. Someone like you. The color drained from Preston's face as understanding dawned. This was a trap. All of it. Not a trap, Devin corrected. A contingency plan created by a man who understood his daughter's weaknesses and sought to protect her from them, and from men like you. Preston's desperation visibly increased. I can't stay here. I have debts, dangerous people expecting payment. Your personal difficulties are not my concern, Devin stated. They should be, Preston countered, his tone hardening. Because if I go down, I'll take Vanessa with me. Every sordid detail of our relationship, every private moment, all of it public. Devin regarded him with cold assessment. Are you attempting to blackmail me, Mr. Thorne? I'm offering a solution, Preston insisted. Help me resolve my situation, and I disappear quietly. Everyone saves face. An interesting proposal, Devin acknowledged. Unfortunately, it assumes I care about Vanessa's public embarrassment. I don't. Then what about your own reputation? Preston pressed. I'll tell everyone how you manipulated this situation, how you waited and watched, planning your revenge for years. A slight smile touched Devin's lips. That would require people to believe you, a con man exposed in the middle of his latest scheme. Preston's expression hardened. You haven't heard the last of this. Actually, Devin replied, opening the door to indicate the meeting was over. I believe I have. After Preston stormed out, Devin contacted Rowan. Preston will likely attempt to leave the island tonight, through unofficial channels. Make sure the authorities are aware. Already done, Rowan confirmed. We've identified a charter captain he's been in contact with. Local police are monitoring the situation. As Devin prepared to return to New York the following day, he received one final visitor, Catherine Montgomery. Vanessa's been sedated, she reported. Her doctor is concerned about her emotional state. A predictable reaction, Devin noted. The stipend includes comprehensive health coverage. Catherine studied him carefully. You're really going through with all of this, exactly as Dad planned? It's what I promised him, Devin replied simply. Even the final phase? She asked. The complete isolation? Devin nodded once. Harold was clear. If Preston attempts blackmail or public exposure, which he has, then Vanessa is to be completely cut off, except for essential support services. It seems cruel, Catherine observed. It's protective, Devin corrected. Preston is dangerous, more so now that he's desperate. Isolating Vanessa from his influence is the safest approach. Catherine sighed deeply. Dad always did believe in harsh lessons. He believed in lasting ones, Devin amended. This isn't punishment. It's the consequence of choices made with full awareness of their potential impact. As Catherine left, she paused at the door. Will you ever forgive her? Devin considered the question carefully. Forgiveness isn't relevant. This was never about emotion. It was about obligation and responsibility. To Dad, she noted. To the promise I made, he clarified. To protect the Montgomery legacy, even from those who should have valued it most. After she departed, Devin stood on the balcony, watching the ocean. Harold's voice seemed to echo in his mind. When it's done, you'll feel nothing. No satisfaction, no vindication. Only the knowledge that you fulfilled your duty. That emptiness is the price of keeping your word. The old man had been right. As Devin surveyed the wreckage of lives carefully orchestrated over 20 years, he felt neither triumph nor regret, only the calm certainty of a task meticulously completed. Chapter 6. Checkmate. 1 month after the engagement party catastrophe, Devin sat in his Manhattan office reviewing the quarterly reports for the Montgomery Foundation. The transition of control had been seamless, exactly as Harold had planned. The financial empire continued to function efficiently, unaffected by the personal drama that had precipitated the change in leadership. Lena entered with the morning security briefing. Preston Thorne was arrested in Miami last night, she reported, attempting to enter the country on a falsified passport. As expected, Devin noted, setting aside the financial documents. Has he made any statements? He's claiming persecution and offering to cooperate with authorities regarding financial crimes involving the Montgomery family, Lena replied, her tone conveying her skepticism. A desperate move, Devin observed. Ensure our legal team is prepared for any inquiries. Already done, she confirmed. Gregory has assembled a response team. They don't anticipate any genuine concerns. Preston has no actual evidence of wrongdoing, only unsubstantiated accusations. Devin nodded, satisfied. Harold's meticulous approach extended to every aspect of the Montgomery business interests. There were no financial irregularities to discover, no matter how desperately Preston searched. And Vanessa? He inquired. Still at the Connecticut property, Lena reported. She's made several attempts to contact financial institutions regarding her trust access. All have been redirected to the foundation as instructed. Has she attempted to contact Preston? No, Lena said. According to our surveillance, she's refused his calls since the arrest was reported in the media. Devin considered this information. She's beginning to understand the magnitude of her miscalculation. Later that afternoon, Gregory Sinclair arrived for their weekly meeting, bringing news of Vanessa's latest legal maneuvers. She's filed a petition challenging Harold's mental capacity at the time he established the dissolution clause, the attorney reported, claiming he was suffering from early dementia. A transparent attempt, Devin replied dismissively. Harold underwent comprehensive cognitive assessment annually. The trust amendments were all executed during periods of verified mental clarity. Of course, Gregory agreed. We have the medical documentation ready. The petition will be dismissed, but it's worth noting the escalation in her tactics. Devin leaned back in his chair, contemplating this development. Has she attempted to access Catherine's portion of the family trust? Not yet, Gregory said, though we anticipate that move soon. Catherine has been briefed and understands the importance of maintaining a unified front. Good, Devin nodded. Implement the communication restrictions. From this point forward, all of Vanessa's inquiries are to be directed through official foundation channels only. Gregory frowned slightly. Complete isolation? That seems severe. It's necessary, Devin stated firmly. Harold was explicit about this phase. Vanessa must understand that her attempts to circumvent the structure will only result in further restrictions. After Gregory departed, Devin received an unexpected call from Detective Michael Reeves of the Financial Crimes Division, a man he'd worked with on several development projects in the past. Preston Thorne has made some interesting claims. Reeves began without preamble. Says you orchestrated an elaborate scheme to defraud your ex-wife of her inheritance. Desperate allegation from a desperate man, Devin replied calmly. I assume you've reviewed his history? 3 previous instances of targeting wealthy women, Reeves confirmed, along with outstanding warrants in 2 states for fraud. Not exactly a credible witness. Indeed, Devin agreed. Still, Reeves continued, I need to ask, was there any manipulation of the Montgomery Trust documents? Any possibility that Harold Montgomery's wishes were reinterpreted after his death? None whatsoever, Devin stated confidently. The dissolution clause was established 15 years ago, witnessed by multiple attorneys, and reaffirmed in Harold's final will. The documentation is extensive and unambiguous. That's what I figured, Reeves acknowledged. But I had to ask. Thorne is making a lot of noise, claiming conspiracy and entrapment. The claims of a con man caught in his own game, Devin observed. After ending the call, Devin turned his attention to the final phase of Harold's plan. The old man had anticipated every move, including Preston's desperate attempts to involve authorities and Vanessa's legal challenges. When all other avenues are exhausted, Harold had written, she will attempt direct reconciliation. This is perhaps the most dangerous phase, as her desperation will make her persuasive. Remember your promise. That evening, as predicted, Vanessa called his private line, a number few people possessed. We need to talk, she said when he answered, her voice steady but with an undertone of strain. In person. No lawyers, no intermediaries. That would be inadvisable, Devin replied evenly. Please, she said, the word clearly difficult for her to utter. There are things I need to say. Things you should hear. Devin considered refusing outright, but Harold's instructions had covered this scenario as well. Allow the meeting. Let her make her case. Then ensure she understands the permanence of her situation. Very well, he conceded. Tomorrow. My office. Noon. Thank you, she said, relief evident in her voice. I'll be there. After ending the call, Devin contacted Lena. Vanessa will be coming to the office tomorrow. Ensure security is prepared and have Gregory on standby. Do you think she's planning something? Lena asked. Harold thought she might, Devin replied. Prepare for all contingencies. The following day, Vanessa arrived precisely at noon, dressed in a conservative navy suit that emphasized her composed professionalism. Security escorted her to Devin's office, where he waited behind his desk, deliberately maintaining the formal barrier between them. Thank you for seeing me, she began, taking the offered seat across from him. You indicated it was important, he replied neutrally. Vanessa took a deep breath. I've had time to reflect on everything that's happened, on the choices I made and their consequences. Devin remained silent, watching her carefully. I understand now what my father was trying to do, she continued. Protect me from myself, in his way. And I understand why you fulfilled your promise to him. Do you? Devin asked mildly. You're a man of your word, she said. It's one of the qualities I always admired about you, even when I strayed. Devin noted her careful word choice. What is it you want, Vanessa? She met his gaze directly. A second chance. Not reconciliation. I know that's not possible now. But a role in the foundation. A chance to prove I can be trusted with some portion of my father's legacy. The terms of the trust are clear, Devin reminded her. Control has permanently transferred to the foundation board. I'm not asking for control, she clarified. Just involvement. A chance to contribute. To learn. Devin studied her, noting the carefully constructed humility in her expression. Harold had predicted this too. The strategic concession designed to gain a foothold. Why now, he asked. You've spent the last month challenging the trust provisions through legal channels. Because I finally understood something, she replied. Preston never loved me. He was using me, just as my father feared, just as you knew. And this realization changed your perspective? It made me see that my father was right, she admitted, about my judgment, my vulnerabilities, about the need for protection. Devin nodded slightly. An important insight. Hope flickered in Vanessa's eyes. Then you'll consider my request? Some role within the foundation. The foundation board would need to vote on any such arrangement, Devin replied carefully. Given recent events, I'm not certain the outcome would favor your involvement. You control the board, she pointed out. Your recommendation would carry significant weight. True, he acknowledged, but my recommendation would be based on what serves the foundation's interests. Vanessa leaned forward slightly. I could be an asset, Devin. I know the social connections, the relationships that keep donations flowing. Let me prove my value. Devin allowed a moment of silence before responding. There's something you should know, Vanessa. Something your father stipulated in his final instructions. What? She asked. Wariness creeping into her expression. If you made precisely this appeal for involvement in the foundation after all other avenues were exhausted, I was to give you a choice. What choice? She asked cautiously. Complete separation from the Montgomery name and interests, with your stipend intact, but no connection to foundation activities, Devin explained. Or a probationary role with the foundation, but with your stipend reduced by 80% permanently. Vanessa's composure fractured. That's impossible. How could he have known I would ask this specific request? Because he understood you, Devin replied simply. Just as he understood that your interest in the foundation would be motivated by access, not contribution. That's not fair, she protested. I genuinely want to be involved. Perhaps, Devin conceded. But Harold's instructions were explicit. Those are the only options available. Vanessa's expression hardened. And if I refuse both, if I continue legal challenges, then the stipend is reduced regardless, and all communication occurs exclusively through designated channels, Devin stated. Harold anticipated resistance as well. He thought of everything, she said bitterly. He tried to, Devin confirmed. Out of concern for your welfare and the legacy he built. Vanessa stood abruptly. I need time to consider my options. Of course, Devin agreed, rising as well. The foundation board meets next week. I'll need your decision by then. As she turned to leave, Vanessa paused. Was any of it real, Devin? Our marriage? Or was it all just part of my father's grand design? Devin considered her question carefully. The arrangement with your father came first, he acknowledged. But the 20 years we built together were real enough. I honored my commitments to you until you chose a different path. Cold comfort, she observed. The only kind available now, he replied simply. After she departed, Lena entered the office. That went as expected, precisely as Harold outlined, Devin confirmed. She'll choose the stipend over involvement. The financial security matters more than the influence. And if she doesn't, Lena asked. She will, Devin said with certainty. Harold understood her priorities better than she does herself. 3 days later, Devin received Vanessa's decision via formal letter, delivered by her attorney. She had chosen to maintain the full stipend and sever all connection to the Montgomery Foundation. Gregory Sinclair reviewed the documentation with satisfaction. Clean and complete, as Harold wanted. No further legal challenges, no continued involvement. Implement the final protocols, Devin instructed. Transfer the Connecticut property to her permanent ownership. Establish the irrevocable stipend trust, and close all remaining connections to Montgomery Holdings. As Gregory departed to execute these instructions, Devin opened Harold Montgomery's journal to the final entry, written days before his death. When it's finished, when Vanessa has made her final choice and accepted the consequences of her actions, your obligation to me will be complete, Devin. 20 years of your life in exchange for the empire we built together, a fair trade, I believe. What you do after is your own choice, free from any promise or debt to me. Devin closed the journal thoughtfully. For the first time in 20 years, his path forward was entirely his own to determine. That evening, as he worked late in his office, Catherine Montgomery arrived unannounced. It's done then? She asked, accepting the scotch he offered. As your father intended, Devin confirmed. Catherine studied him over the rim of her glass. And now? What does Devin Hargrove do when he's no longer bound by promises to Harold Montgomery? I haven't decided, he admitted. 20 years is a long time to move in a predetermined direction. You could walk away completely, she suggested. From the foundation, from all of it. You fulfilled your obligation. Devin considered this possibility. The foundation does important work. Your father built something meaningful, beneath all the strategic maneuvering. So you'll stay on as executor? She asked, surprised. For now, he replied, until a suitable transition can be arranged. Catherine nodded slowly. Dad would be satisfied. Everything turned out exactly as he planned. Not quite everything, Devin noted. Oh, he didn't anticipate how completely Preston would implode, Devin explained. The federal charges for passport fraud, the outstanding warrants. Preston will likely serve significant time. A bonus outcome, Catherine remarked. An additional layer of protection for Vanessa, Devin corrected. Your father would have approved. As Catherine prepared to leave, she paused thoughtfully. For all his calculation and strategic brilliance, I think Dad missed something important. What's that? Devin asked. The cost to you, she said simply. 20 years is a long time to live someone else's plan. After she departed, Devin returned to his desk, reviewing the final separation documents. Everything was in order. The Montgomery legacy secured exactly as Harold had intended. Vanessa would live comfortably, but without the power to squander generations of built wealth. Preston would face the consequences of his actions through legal channels. The foundation would continue its work uninterrupted. Harold Montgomery's chess game, set in motion decades ago, had reached its conclusion with every piece landing precisely where the old man had envisioned. As Devin signed the last document, finalizing the arrangement, he reflected on Catherine's observation. 20 years of his life, dedicated to fulfilling a promise to a man who had seen potential in him when few others had. A fair exchange, perhaps, but one that left him at a crossroads he hadn't anticipated. For the first time in decades, Devin Hargrove was free to determine his own course, a freedom that carried its own kind of emptiness. The game was won, the obligation fulfilled. What remained was the question Harold had never addressed. What comes after the checkmate? Chapter 7, New Horizons. 6 months after finalizing the separation from Vanessa, Devin stood in his Manhattan office, gazing at the city skyline as dusk descended. The transition of Montgomery Foundation leadership was proceeding smoothly, with a carefully selected team gradually assuming the responsibilities he had managed since Harold's death. Lena entered with her usual quiet efficiency. The board approved the Jakarta expansion, she reported. Construction begins next quarter. Good, Devin nodded, turning from the window. And the transition timeline? On schedule, she confirmed. By year's end, your active involvement won't be required for day-to-day operations. Devin nodded, satisfied. After fulfilling his promise to Harold, he had decided to step back gradually from the Montgomery interests. Not an abrupt departure, but a measured withdrawal that ensured stability. Any word for Vanessa? He asked. She's purchased a property in Palm Beach, Lena reported. Modest by her previous standards, but comfortable. The stipend trust is functioning as designed. Devin absorbed this information without visible reaction. Vanessa had ultimately accepted her new reality with the practicality Harold had always believed she possessed beneath her impulsive nature. The reduced circumstances had forced a kind of recalibration, just as her father had intended. And Preston, he inquired. Sentenced last week, Lena said. 7 years for fraud and passport violations. His cooperation attempts failed to reduce the sentence significantly. As expected, Devin noted, Preston's attempts to trade information about the Montgomery family had yielded nothing of value to authorities. Harold's business dealings had always been impeccably documented and entirely legitimate. After Lena departed, Devin received an unexpected call from Catherine. I'm in town, she said without preamble. Having dinner at Laurent. Join me. Devin checked his watch. He had no other commitments, an increasingly common occurrence as he disentangled himself from the Montgomery Empire. I'll be there in 30 minutes. Laurent was an exclusive French restaurant in Midtown, one of Catherine's favorites. When Devin arrived, he found her already seated at a corner table, a glass of Bordeaux in hand. "You look rested," she observed as he joined her. "Retirement agrees with you." "Semi-retirement," he corrected mildly. "I still maintain some interests." Catherine smiled slightly. "But nothing that consumes you the way the Montgomery obligations did." "True enough," he acknowledged. As they ordered and began their meal, Catherine studied him thoughtfully. "Have you heard about Vanessa's latest venture?" Devon raised an eyebrow. "I haven't been monitoring her activities closely." "She started a small foundation," Catherine explained, "focused on supporting women rebuilding after divorce and financial setbacks." "Ironic," Devon noted. "Perhaps," Catherine agreed, "or perhaps just drawing from experience. She's keeping it small, manageable, within the constraints of her stipend." "Learning from past mistakes," Devon observed. "Harold would be pleased." Catherine sipped her wine thoughtfully. "I'm not sure he would. Dad always wanted control more than growth." "He wanted protection for what he'd built," Devon corrected. "And now that it's protected," Catherine asked, "what do you want, Devon? After 20 years of fulfilling someone else's vision, have you discovered your own?" The question caught him slightly off guard. Since completing his obligation to Harold, Devon had focused on the mechanical aspects of disentanglement, legal transitions, leadership changes, structural adjustments. The deeper question of personal direction remained unexplored. "I'm considering options," he replied carefully. Catherine smiled knowingly. "Always precise in your answers." Another trait Dad admired. As their dinner continued, the conversation shifted to Catherine's own ventures, her conservation work in Africa, her photography exhibitions. Unlike Vanessa, she had always maintained healthy distance from the Montgomery fortune, establishing her own identity separate from family wealth. "I'm leaving for Kenya next week," she mentioned as they finished their meal. "A new wildlife preserve project." "Important work," Devon acknowledged. "Your father would be proud." Catherine's expression turned reflective. "Would he?" Dad measured success in terms of empire building. Conservation was always a nice hobby in his view. He respected commitment, Devon countered, whatever the field. As they parted ways outside the restaurant, Catherine's parting words lingered with him. "Don't spend too long in the shadows of someone else's legacy, Devon. Even after fulfilling your promise, you're still defining yourself by Dad's expectations." Back in his apartment, Devon found himself contemplating her observation. For 20 years, his path had been clearly defined by his promise to Harold. Now, with that obligation fulfilled, the way forward seemed strangely undefined. His secure phone rang. Gregory Sinclair calling unusually late. "Sorry to disturb you," the attorney began, "but there's a situation developing. Preston Thorne was attacked in prison yesterday. He's in critical condition." "How is this relevant to our interests?" Devon asked, maintaining his characteristic composure. "Before losing consciousness, he made statements to prison authorities," Gregory explained, "claiming the attack was ordered by you as retribution for his relationship with Vanessa." Devon frowned slightly. "An absurd allegation. I have no connection to Preston's current circumstances." "Of course," Gregory agreed quickly, "but the authorities will need to investigate the claim, given Thorne's condition. I wanted you to be prepared for potential inquiries." "Thank you for the warning," Devon replied. "Keep me informed of developments." After ending the call, Devon poured himself a scotch and moved to the window overlooking Central Park. Preston's allegations were baseless. Devon had no need for such crude methods of retribution. Harold's plan had been executed with precision, leaving Preston to face the natural consequences of his own actions. Yet the accusation itself was revealing. Even now, Preston couldn't accept that his downfall was self-inflicted, the result of his own choices and schemes. He needed to believe in a conspiracy, a mastermind behind his misfortune. The following morning, Detective Reeves called as anticipated. "I have to ask," he began apologetically, "about these allegations from Preston Thorne." "I understand," Devon replied calmly. "They're completely unfounded. I have no reason to arrange harm to Mr. Thorne. His current circumstances are entirely of his own making." "That's my assessment as well," Reeves acknowledged. "But I need to go through the motions." "Your whereabouts yesterday?" "Board meeting until 4, dinner with Catherine Montgomery at Loron from 7 until 9:30, Then home, Devin recounted. All easily verified. I'll need to do that, Reeves confirmed. Just procedure. Of course, Devin agreed. I have nothing to hide. After the detectives' inquiries were satisfied, Devin met with Lena to discuss the development. Preston seems determined to cast himself as the victim, she observed. A common trait among con men, Devin noted. The inability to accept responsibility for their failures. Should we be concerned about further allegations? Lena asked. Devin considered the question. Monitor the situation, but I doubt it will gain traction. Preston's credibility is non-existent at this point. As predicted, Preston's accusations were quickly dismissed by authorities as the desperate fabrications of a man facing years of incarceration. The incident faded from attention, yet it left Devin contemplating the lingering threads of his involvement with the Montgomery saga. Harold's journal sat on his desk, its leather binding worn from years of reference. Devin had consulted it countless times during the execution of Harold's plan, seeking guidance and confirmation. Now, with the plan completed, the journal remained, a relic of a completed obligation. That evening, he received an unexpected message from Vanessa, the first direct communication since their final meeting 6 months earlier. I heard about Preston's accusations. For what it's worth, I know they're false. You never needed crude methods when strategic patience worked so effectively. The message required no response, yet confirmed what Devin had long understood about Vanessa. Beneath her impulsivity and poor judgment regarding men, she possessed intelligence and perception. She recognized the chess game that had unfolded around her, even if she had been unable to counter it. 3 days later, Devin met with the Montgomery Foundation Board to formalize the leadership transition timeline. By the end of the year, his daily involvement would cease, though he would remain nominally connected as an advisory trustee. What are your plans after the transition? Asked Bernard Winters, the senior board member who would assume primary leadership. I have interests to pursue, Devin replied noncommittally. The foundation will always value your input, Bernard assured him. Harold chose wisely when he selected you as a successor. I was never meant to be permanent, Devin corrected, only to ensure stability through potential disruption. As the meeting concluded, Catherine pulled him aside. I'm leaving for Kenya tomorrow, she said, but I wanted to give you something first. She handed him a small leather-bound notebook, similar to but distinct from Harold's journal. I found this in Dad's personal safe at the lake house. It was marked for you, to be delivered when the task is complete. Devin accepted the notebook with measured curiosity. He never mentioned a second journal. Dad always had contingencies for his contingencies, Catherine remarked with a slight smile. Safe travels, Devin. Whatever path you choose next. That night, alone in his apartment, Devin opened the previously unknown journal. The first entry was dated 20 years ago, the day after his wedding to Vanessa. Devin, if you're reading this, you fulfilled your promise completely. The Montgomery legacy is secure, and Vanessa has learned the harsh lesson I could never deliver myself. Now comes the part one couldn't include in our original arrangement. My final request. Do not let my legacy become your prison. I selected you because you possess qualities I valued: discipline, strategic thinking, unwavering commitment. But I never intended those qualities to be consumed entirely by my agenda. The Montgomery fortune is now protected from Vanessa's poor judgment, as we agreed. But your life was never meant to be merely a tool for my purposes. That was the arrangement, not the intention. My final request is simple. Find your own path forward. Not as Harold Montgomery's executor, not as Vanessa's ex-husband, but as Devin Hargrove, the man whose potential I recognized 20 years ago. The man I suspected might become far more than just the guardian of my legacy. Devin closed the journal slowly, Harold's final message resonating with unexpected impact. For 2 decades, he had executed the old man's plan with meticulous precision, never questioning the underlying purpose or considering what might come after. Now, with Harold's final instruction revealed, Devin faced a challenge more complex than anything in the carefully orchestrated downfall of Preston Thorne or the controlled diminishment of Vanessa's circumstances. He faced the challenge of defining himself beyond the identity that had consumed 20 years of his life. The next morning, Devin called Lena to his office. "Accelerate the transition timeline," he instructed. "I want to be fully removed from operational control by the end of the month, not the end of the year." Lena's surprise was evident, but quickly contained. "That's possible, but rushed. May I ask why the sudden urgency?" Devin considered his response carefully. "It's time for me to pursue other interests. The foundation is stable. The mechanisms are in place. My continued involvement serves no essential purpose." "And these other interests?" Lena inquired. "To be determined," Devin replied honestly. For the first time in 20 years. Chapter 8. The Reckoning. 2 weeks after accelerating his departure from the Montgomery Foundation, Devin found himself on his private jet bound for Geneva. The abrupt change in his timeline had generated speculation among board members and business associates, but Devin had offered no explanations beyond personal priorities. Lena accompanied him, having elected to continue her association with Devin rather than remain with the foundation. Her loyalty had been to him personally, not to the Montgomery interests. "The transition is proceeding smoothly," she reported as they flew over the Atlantic. "Bernard, is everything well in hand?" "Good," Devin nodded, reviewing documents on his tablet. "And the Zurich arrangements?" "Confirmed," Lena replied. "The banking team will meet us tomorrow morning. All the documentation is prepared." Devin had spent the past 2 weeks restructuring his personal holdings, separating them completely from any Montgomery connection. The Swiss meetings represented the final step in this process, establishing an entirely independent financial framework for whatever came next. "Have you decided what you'll tell them?" Lena asked carefully. Devin understood the question's implications. For 2 decades, his financial identity had been inextricably linked to the Montgomery Empire. Now, he was deliberately severing those connections, creating questions about his future direction. "Only what's necessary for the transactions," he replied. "The specifics of my next ventures remain private for now." Their arrival in Geneva proceeded without incident. The following morning, in the discreet elegance of a private banking suite, Devin completed the restructuring of his assets. By noon, the process was complete. Devin Hargrove was financially independent from the Montgomery legacy for the first time in 20 years. As they left the bank, Lena observed, "It feels like the end of an era." "The conclusion of a chapter," Devin corrected. "Not the entire story." That evening, as Devin dined in his hotel suite, his secure phone rang with an unexpected caller, Detective Michael Reeves. "I apologize for disturbing you internationally," Reeves began, "but there's been a development regarding Preston Thorne." "Has he made additional allegations?" Devin asked, his tone neutral. "No," Reeves replied solemnly. "He's dead. Complications from his injuries." Devin absorbed this information with his characteristic composure. "I see. And you're calling because..." "Because his death elevates the investigation," Reeves explained. "What was assault is now homicide. His previous accusations against you have to be reviewed, despite their questionable credibility." "I understand," Devin replied calmly. "My representatives will cooperate fully, as always." After ending the call, Devin contacted Gregory Sinclair, briefing him on the development and authorizing whatever legal responses might be necessary. Preston's death was unfortunate, but changed nothing about the baseless nature of his accusations. "This seems unlikely to develop into anything significant," Gregory assured him. "Thorne's claims were dismissed once already, and there's nothing connecting you to the prison assault." "Nevertheless, be thorough," Devin instructed. "I don't want lingering questions." The following day, as Devin prepared to leave Geneva for his next destination, he received news that altered his plans entirely. Catherine Montgomery had been seriously injured in a small plane crash in Kenya. She was stable, but required specialized medical care. Without hesitation, Devin redirected his jet to Nairobi, arriving 18 hours later at the hospital where Catherine had been initially treated. Her injuries, a broken leg, fractured ribs, and a concussion, were serious but not life-threatening. "You didn't have to come," she said weakly when he entered her room. "I'm not dying." "Your medical evacuation needed arranging," he replied simply, taking the seat beside her bed. My jet is more comfortable than a commercial medical transport. Catherine studied him through pain-glazed eyes. Always practical. Did you read it? Dad's second journal. I did, Devin confirmed. And, she pressed weakly, I've accelerated my separation from the foundation, he told her. Complete financial independence has been established. A slight smile touched Catherine's pale lips. You're following his final instruction. Finding your own path. Beginning to, Devin acknowledged. The medical evacuation was arranged with characteristic efficiency. Within 24 hours, Catherine was aboard Devin's jet, attended by a medical team, bound for a specialized facility in Boston. You've been trying to find a way out, she observed during the flight, the pain medication making her unusually direct. Ever since the plan was completed. But you couldn't just walk away. There were responsibilities to fulfill, Devin replied. No, Catherine countered, her gaze unexpectedly sharp. You needed permission. From Dad. That's what the second journal gave you. Devin considered her observation with uncharacteristic introspection. Perhaps, he conceded. 20 years creates powerful patterns. Habits, she corrected. Comfortable ones, even when they're confining. After ensuring Catherine was settled in Boston with the best medical care available, Devin returned to New York, where new developments awaited. Detective Reeves requested a formal interview regarding Preston Thorne's death, now classified as a homicide. Gregory Sinclair accompanied him to police headquarters, though Devin maintained his usual composure throughout the questioning. We've reviewed the prison security footage, Reeves explained. The attack appears to have been related to prison politics, not outside influence. But we had to explore all possibilities, given Thorne's allegations. Understand, Devin replied, and I appreciate your thoroughness. As they left the police station, Gregory remarked, that should be the end of it. Preston Thorne has caused his final disruption. Let's hope so, Devin agreed, though something about the situation left him vaguely unsettled. That evening, in the solitude of his apartment, Devin reviewed both of Harold's journals, the tactical guide that had directed his actions for 20 years, and the unexpected final message that had granted him release from those obligations. The contrast between them was striking. The first journal detailed meticulous plans for protecting the Montgomery fortune from Vanessa's poor judgment, with Devin as the executing agent. The second acknowledged Devin as a person with his own potential, separate from his role in Harold's schemes. A notification on his tablet interrupted his contemplation. A news alert about Preston Thorne's death, now being investigated as a possible targeted killing rather than random prison violence. Devin frowned slightly. The persistence of these allegations was becoming problematic, not because they had merit, but because they created an ongoing connection to circumstances he was trying to leave behind. His secure phone rang, Lena with her evening update. There's been an unexpected development, she reported. Vanessa has given an interview to the Wall Street Journal about Preston's death. It's scheduled for publication tomorrow. What kind of interview? Devin asked, his tone sharpening slightly. According to our source, she's contradicting Preston's accusations against you, Lena explained, providing context about his history of manipulation and fraud, essentially discrediting his claims from beyond the grave. Devin absorbed this information with surprise. Vanessa had no obligation to defend him. Quite the contrary. Her intervention was unexpected and, frankly, unnecessary from a practical standpoint. Her statement is comprehensive, Lena continued. She acknowledges her own poor judgment in becoming involved with Preston, confirms that you had no motive to arrange harm to him after he was already imprisoned and discredited, and suggests his death was the result of his own actions in prison, not any outside influence. Interesting, Devin remarked. Has she requested anything in return for this support? Nothing, Lena confirmed. There's been no contact with the foundation or any of your representatives. The following day, Vanessa's interview appeared as scheduled. Her defense of Devin was articulate and comprehensive, effectively dismantling Preston's posthumous accusations. She portrayed Preston accurately as a con man who had targeted her for financial gain, and Devin as the executor of her father's legitimate wishes regarding family wealth protection. The impact was immediate. Media interest in connecting Devon to Preston's death evaporated, replaced by retrospective pieces on Preston's history of financial schemes targeting wealthy women. That evening, Devon received a text message from a number he didn't recognize. "You didn't deserve to have your reputation tarnished by his final lie. Consider it the repayment of a debt. V." The message required no response, yet it represented an unexpected coda to their long and complicated relationship. Vanessa had suffered the consequences of her choices, as Harold had intended. Yet in this final interaction, she had demonstrated a capacity for responsibility and fairness that her father had never believed she possessed. 2 days later, Devon visited Catherine in the Boston medical facility, finding her recovery progressing well. "I saw Vanessa's interview," she mentioned as they shared a light dinner in her private room. "Surprising. Unexpected," Devon agreed. "Maybe Dad was wrong about her," Catherine suggested. "Not about her judgment regarding men. That was clearly poor, but about her capacity to learn from mistakes." "Perhaps," Devon acknowledged, though the lesson came at substantial cost. Catherine studied him thoughtfully. "You're different, you know, since reading Dad's second journal. Less constrained." "I'm adjusting to new circumstances," Devon replied carefully. "No," Catherine countered with a slight smile. "You're finally allowing yourself to consider possibilities beyond Dad's blueprint. It suits you." As they continued their conversation, Catherine's phone chimed with a news alert. She checked it, her expression turning serious. "What is it?" Devon asked. "They've arrested someone for Preston's murder," she reported. "A fellow inmate with connections to Alejandro Vega." Devon's eyebrows rose slightly. "The developer from Belize." "The same," Catherine confirmed. Apparently, Preston had promised Vega significant investment that never materialized. When Vega discovered Preston's imprisonment, he arranged retribution. "Fitting," Devon observed. "Preston's own scheme returning to claim him." "A natural consequence," Catherine noted, echoing Devon's words from months earlier. The revelation brought unexpected closure to the Preston Thorne chapter of Devon's life. The man's death had resulted from his own machinations, the web of deception he had woven eventually entangling him fatally. No elaborate revenge from Devon had been necessary. Preston's own actions had determined his fate. That night, as Devon flew back to New York, he reflected on Harold Montgomery's 2 journals, The Strategic Guide and The Final Release. For 20 years, he had followed Harold's path with unwavering discipline. Now, he faced the challenge of charting his own course. In the privacy of his jet, Devon opened his laptop and began typing. Not a strategic plan or business proposal, but something more fundamental, a vision for his future that belonged solely to him, untethered from promises to the dead or obligations to the past. For the first time in decades, Devon Hargrove contemplated his life not as an instrument of someone else's design, but as a creation entirely his own. Chapter 9, Liberation. 1 year after the dissolution of his marriage to Vanessa, Devon stood on the observation deck of his newly completed building in downtown Manhattan. The Hargrove Tower, his first major development bearing only his name, rose 72 stories above the city, a testament to his emergence from the shadow of the Montgomery legacy. Lena joined him, tablet in hand as always. The final occupancy permits came through this morning. "We're officially complete and fully leased." "Good," Devon nodded, satisfaction evident in his expression. "And the foundation space?" "Ready for the opening gala next week," she confirmed. The Hargrove Innovation Fund is generating significant interest in the tech community. The Innovation Fund represented Devon's first major philanthropic venture independent of the Montgomery Foundation, a $200 million commitment to supporting technology startups focused on environmental sustainability and medical advancement. "Catherine's flight arrives at 4, Lena reminded him. "Her doctor has cleared her for the trip, though she'll still need the wheelchair for extended periods." "Ensure the penthouse is prepared for her stay," Devon instructed, "and confirm her physical therapy appointments for the duration of her visit." Catherine's recovery from the plane crash had been steady but prolonged. Her decision to attend the tower's opening represented her first major travel since the accident, a gesture of support that Devin appreciated more than he expressed. Later that afternoon, as Devin welcomed Catherine at his private helipad atop the tower, he noted the improvement in her condition. Though still using a wheelchair, her color had returned, and the sharp intelligence in her eyes was undiminished. "Impressive," she remarked, surveying the panoramic views from the penthouse. "Completely your vision, for what I understand." From concept to execution, Devin confirmed, pouring them both a celebratory champagne. "The first project designed entirely to my specifications, without compromise." Catherine accepted the glass, studying him over its rim. "It suits you, building something that's entirely yours." "It's been illuminating," Devin acknowledged. "Creating without constraints imposed by others' expectations." "That's the Devin Hargrove Dad saw potential in," Catherine observed, before he channeled it into his own agenda. They shared a comfortable silence, looking out over the city as dusk approached. "Have you heard from Vanessa?" Catherine finally asked. "Not directly," Devin replied, "though I understand her foundation is gaining traction, supporting women rebuilding after divorce and financial setbacks." "Ironic," Catherine noted with a slight smile. "Appropriate," Devin corrected. "Experience is a powerful teacher." The opening gala for the Hargrove Tower took place the following week, attracting the elite of New York's business and philanthropic communities. Devin moved through the crowd with practiced ease, his natural authority enhanced by the setting, a physical manifestation of his vision and capability. Gregory Sinclair approached during a brief lull in conversations. "Magnificent achievement," the attorney observed, gesturing to the surrounding space. "Harold would have appreciated the boldness of the design." "Perhaps," Devin replied neutrally, "though it's not meant to reflect his tastes." Gregory studied him thoughtfully. "You've changed this past year. Found your own direction." "As instructed in the second journal," Devin acknowledged. "No," Gregory countered with unusual directness. "Harold's final instruction was permission, not guidance." This, he gestured to the tower, the gathering, the Innovation Fund materials displayed prominently. "This is entirely your creation, your vision." Before Devin could respond, a stir near the entrance drew their attention. Vanessa Montgomery had arrived, elegant in a simple black dress that contrasted with the more elaborate attire of most female guests. Her presence was unexpected. She hadn't been included on the guest list. Yet she moved with quiet confidence toward Devin, navigating the suddenly watchful crowd with practiced grace. "Congratulations," she said simply when she reached him, offering her hand. "It's a remarkable achievement." Devin accepted the handshake, noting the absence of the brittleness that had characterized their last meeting. "Thank you for coming. I admit, I didn't expect to see you here. Catherine invited me," Vanessa explained. "She thought it might be appropriate for me to witness this milestone in your independent journey." Around them, conversations had hushed slightly as guests observed this unexpected reunion. Devin guided Vanessa toward a quieter corner, away from the most obvious scrutiny. "How are you?" he asked, his tone neutral but not cold. "Rebuilding," she replied honestly. "My foundation is small but growing. Helping women navigate the aftermath of financial disruption has been healing." "I've heard positive reports of your work," Devin acknowledged. Vanessa studied him with genuine curiosity. "And you?" "Is this," she gestured to the tower around them, "what you always wanted to create?" "It's what I'm creating now," Devin replied carefully. "The past is relevant, but not controlling." A slight smile touched Vanessa's lips. A diplomatic answer. "But I can see the difference. This building, it has your character, not Dad's." He would have hated the sustainability features and community spaces. "Harold believed in efficiency above all," Devin agreed. "I've found value in broader considerations." Their conversation was interrupted by Catherine, approaching in her wheelchair with the assistance of her nurse. "I hope you don't mind my addition to the guest list," she said to Devin, though her expression suggested she wasn't particularly concerned about his approval. "An unexpected but not unwelcome surprise," Devin replied diplomatically. The three of them, Devin, Vanessa, and Catherine, created a tableau that generated subtle but distinct interest among the other guests. The Montgomery sisters, together with Devon Hargrove, represented a visual statement about the evolution of relationships and the capacity for change. As the evening progressed, Devon found himself observing Vanessa with analytical objectivity. She had adapted to her reduced circumstances with more resilience than Harold had predicted, finding purpose in helping others navigate similar transitions. There was a genuineness to her current path that had been absent in her previous charitable endeavors. Later, as the event began winding down, Vanessa approached Devon once more. "Thank you for not having me removed," she said, a hint of her old dry humor surfacing. "It would have made for awkward headlines." "I've never been motivated by petty gestures," Devon replied evenly. "No," she agreed. "Your approach was always more strategic. Like Dad. And yet, distinct from him," Devon noted, "as recent developments have demonstrated." Vanessa nodded slowly. "He would have maintained control of the foundation indefinitely. Your choice to step away completely was unexpected. By design," Devon acknowledged. "Independence requires clear separation." As Vanessa prepared to leave, she paused. "For what it's worth, I understand now why Dad chose you. Not just for your business acumen or strategic thinking, but for your capacity to evolve beyond his expectations." After she departed, Catherine joined Devon near the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the illuminated city. "That went better than expected," she observed. "Your orchestration, I presume?" Devon asked mildly. Catherine didn't deny it. "I thought it might provide a certain symmetry. The three of us, at this milestone moment in your independent journey." "Symbolic," Devon noted. "Necessary," Catherine corrected. "For all of you to move forward completely. Dad's game is finished, Devon. What remains is what each of you builds from the aftermath." In the weeks following the gala, Devon accelerated the expansion of his independent ventures. The Hargrove Innovation Fund announced its first round of grants, supporting 12 startups with transformative potential. His real estate developments expanded beyond New York to include projects in 3 international locations, each incorporating the sustainability principles and community focus that had become his signature. 6 months later, Devon received an invitation to the formal opening of the Montgomery Women's Foundation's new headquarters in Palm Beach, a modest but elegant space funded by Vanessa's stipend and private donations. The invitation came with a personal note. "Your presence would be meaningful as we officially launch this work. The foundation represents my attempt to create something constructive from the lessons of the past 20 years. After consideration, Devon accepted, traveling to Florida on a crisp autumn day. The foundation headquarters occupied a converted historic building near the waterfront, tastefully renovated to serve its new purpose. Vanessa greeted him with professional warmth, leading a tour of the facility. "We provide financial counseling, legal support, and career redirection for women rebuilding after divorce or financial setbacks," she explained, introducing him to her small but dedicated staff. The operation was modest compared to the Montgomery Foundation's vast resources, yet there was an authenticity to it that struck Devon as significant. Vanessa had created something meaningful within the constraints of her circumstances. Exactly what Harold had never believed she could do. "You've built something worthwhile," Devon acknowledged as they concluded the tour. "On a smaller scale than I once commanded," Vanessa noted, "but perhaps more meaningful because of those limitations." "Constraints often reveal true capabilities," Devon observed. As they shared a brief lunch in her office following the tour, Vanessa asked the question that had clearly been on her mind. Was it worth it? Dad's 20-year game, with you as his primary piece. Devon considered the question carefully. It served its purpose. The Montgomery legacy remains intact, protected from dissolution. "That's not what I asked," Vanessa pressed gently. "I know," Devon acknowledged. "The true answer is more complex. The arrangement with your father gave me opportunities one might not otherwise have accessed. It also imposed limitations I'm only now fully recognizing." "And if you could go back," she asked, "knowing what you know now, I would still accept Harold's proposal," Devon replied honestly. but perhaps with a clearer understanding of the importance of maintaining my own identity alongside his agenda. Vanessa nodded slowly, accepting his answer. Dad was brilliant at strategy, but limited in imagination. He never considered that people might evolve beyond his expectations, that I might learn from my mistakes, or that you might create something more significant than merely protecting his legacy. As Devin prepared to leave, Vanessa offered a final observation. We're both free now, you know? You from Dad's instructions, me from the illusions about wealth and power that shaped my earlier choices. Different kinds of freedom, but freedom nonetheless. The insight stayed with Devin during his flight back to New York. Harold Montgomery had orchestrated an elaborate 2-decade plan that had achieved its primary objective, protecting the family fortune from Vanessa's poor judgment and the predatory intentions of men like Preston Thorne. Yet the plan's execution had yielded unexpected secondary outcomes. Vanessa discovering purpose through limitation, and Devin recognizing the necessity of independence beyond obligation. 1 month later, as winter settled over Manhattan, Devin hosted a small gathering in his penthouse to celebrate the successful first year of the Hargrove Innovation Fund. Catherine attended, now walking with only a slight limp, her recovery nearly complete. I received an interesting proposal, she mentioned as they shared a quiet moment away from the other guests. Vanessa has approached me about establishing a partnership between her foundation and my conservation work. In what capacity? Devin asked, genuinely curious. Creating career pathways for her clients in conservation management, Catherine explained. Many of these women are highly educated but have been out of the workforce during marriages. Conservation organizations need their skills. An intelligent collaboration, Devin observed. Dad would hate it, Catherine noted with a slight smile. The two of us working together, creating something he never envisioned. Harold's vision was comprehensive but not unlimited, Devin acknowledged. He couldn't anticipate every potential outcome. Will you join us? Catherine asked unexpectedly. Not as a Montgomery trustee or even as the Hargrove Innovation Fund, but as yourself, someone with valuable perspective on transformation and rebuilding. The invitation represented something Devin hadn't anticipated. A potential new connection to the Montgomery sisters based not on Harold's orchestration or legal obligations, but on shared interests and complementary capabilities. I'll consider it, he replied thoughtfully. Later that evening, after the guests had departed, Devin stood on his penthouse terrace, looking out over the city he had helped shape. 20 years ago, he had made a promise to Harold Montgomery that had defined his path with meticulous precision. That promise had been fulfilled exactly as specified. The Montgomery legacy secured against the threats Harold had anticipated. What Harold hadn't anticipated, couldn't have anticipated, was how the execution of his plan would transform not just Vanessa, but Devin himself. The wealthy socialite had discovered purpose through limitation. The disciplined executor had discovered vision beyond obligation. Devin's secure phone chimed with a message from Catherine. Dad planned for every contingency except the possibility that we might all become better versions of ourselves through his machinations. Ironic, isn't it? As Devin composed his reply, he reflected on the journey that had brought him to this moment. Harold Montgomery had seen potential in him 20 years ago, potential that Harold had channeled toward protecting the Montgomery legacy. Now, that same potential was creating a legacy that belonged solely to Devin Hargrove. Perhaps not ironic, he replied to Catherine. Perhaps inevitable. True strength reveals itself only when tested. And there you have it. Another story comes to an end. What did you think? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you enjoy this story, consider joining our community by subscribing. It means the world to us. For more stories like this one, check out the recommended videos on screen. And I'll see you there.